Hi, I'm Kobi, and welcome to Jewish Feminist TikTok. Over the course of 8 TikToks, now remember that's only 8 minutes, I'm gonna talk about a bunch of women who are completely revolutionizing a religion that has been male-centric for far too long, and that's Judaism. I'm going to talk about the first female rabbi who's been completely written out of history. I'm going to talk about authors. I'm going to talk about musicians. I'm going to talk about organization heads, people who right now are on the forefront of Jewish feminism. And I'll be posting all the parts all at once, so you don't have to wait. Hop on over to my page. Thanks for joining Jewish Feminism Talk. This is Regina Jonas. Kicking off our series on powerful Jewish feminists, Regina Jonas' story is one of a pioneer who has all but been erased from history. Born in 1902 in Berlin, Germany, she went on to become the first female rabbi in the world at the age of 33. In fact, right before she became a rabbi, she wrote a thesis paper on why women should be able to become rabbis according to traditional Judaism, which was completely ahead of her time. Tragically, an incredible life was cut short when she became a victim of the Holocaust in World War II. As a result, most Jews today do not know her name. I want to be part of remembering Regina Jonas as a prime example of a continuing fight for women's voices in Judaism. Debbie Friedman is a personal feminist hero of mine. Considered by many to be the most influential of a handful of Jewish rock stars, she started writing Jewish feminist music at the age of 20 because voices of women like hers in Judaism were quite literally nowhere to be found. The chances of hearing Debbie's music in any synagogue in the United States is very high. Her most famous blessing asks for healing from the God that blessed both our Jewish forefathers and mothers. I'll let Debbie speak or sing for herself. Meet Shoshana Keats-Jaskell. In the more observant sects of Judaism, women's modesty is considered a value. However, this has been interpreted into the arguably sexist practice of excluding images of women from billboards and magazines in Israel, even images of female children, because of the fear that religious men may see these women and have impure thoughts. Shoshana Keats-Jaskell writes and speaks publicly against this type of erasure, which also exists in vandalism of images of women. Here is a clip of her speaking on the issue.
בכל זאת, הכל לא בסדר, זה הופך אישה לאובייקט מיני. אם אתה לא יכול להסתכל לנשים כמו בני אדם, אז יש כבר בעיה. זה לא משנה מתי ואיפה, זה פשוט בעיה.
Let me take you on a quick trip to Jerusalem. Behind me is HaKotel, or the Western Wall, the holiest place that a Jew can pray. However, for decades, women have not had the freedom to pray in the ways that many of them want to at the wall, largely due to the power that religious men hold over the area. Anat Hoffman is an Israeli activist who is also the founder and director of Nashot HaKotel, literally Women of the Wall, which is an ever-growing organization that respects tradition but also stands up to it. Women of the Wall regularly hold services at the Western Wall where women can worship freely and also lobbies the Israeli government for women's rights. I've actually been in Israel and seen a Women of the Wall service, and they're really incredible and inspiring. Definitely get a chance to look up Anat Hoffman and Women of the Wall. Joy Layden is challenging the old ways of thinking in Judaism by being fully and unapologetically herself. In addition to being a prolific author and poet, she is also the first openly transgender professor at an Orthodox Jewish institution, Yeshiva University. Her Jewish feminism appears in the way that she uses her unique voice, which is Jewish, female, and trans, to write poems like the one behind me, inspired by Bible verses, which is called in the Jewish tradition Midrash. Joy Layden's memoir also speaks of a complex and engaged relationship with God and faith, even within a religion that is not always accepting of her. You will certainly be enriched if you take a moment to look up Joy Layden. I want to introduce you to Tamar Biela. But first, I want to explain a term that I mentioned in the last video, Midrash. Midrash is how Jews have historically grappled with and interpreted sacred texts for the modern day, whatever day that may be. Most Midrash has been written by men, to the point where women have had to fight for the legitimacy of their own interpretations. Tamar Biela has revolutionized feminist Midrash by editing the first ever collection of Midrash written by contemporary Israeli women. She has also worked on a feminist rewrite of the Bible. On a fun note, Tamar works for an institute connected to my university, shout out Brandeis, and she has come to speak to the class that I'm doing this project for multiple times. Super amazing. Susana Heschel has inspired a Seder near you, and you probably didn't even know it! Now, what is a Seder? A Seder is a series of rituals that make up the way that Jews celebrate the holiday of Passover. Dr. Heschel is an established editor, author, scholar, and Jewish studies professor. In the early 1980s, she was looking for the best symbol to add to the Passover Seder that would represent the inclusion of lesbian and gay Jews in Judaism, and she decided on the orange. For her, the orange represents the fruitfulness that comes from the LGBTQ plus community fully participating in Judaism. Now, anyone can buy a Seder plate, which is built to hold foods that connect to themes of the holiday, with a spot specifically for the orange. Wow! When you see or use an orange at your next Seder, thank the intersectional feminism of Susana Heschel. There is a serious problem with divorce in religious Jewish communities. In these communities, a man must give permission to his wife in order for a divorce to be Jewishly recognized. Unfortunately, many men do not give this permission for a number of reasons, and the women become chained, in Hebrew agunot, to their failed and sometimes abusive relationships. Behind me is a woman breaking the chains of Jewish marriage. Enter Dr. Susan Weiss, the founder and executive director of the Center for Women's Justice. She initiated as a piece of the solution and among many steps forward for Jewish women, the practice of suing men in Israeli civil courts for damages and financial compensation if they will not sign off on a divorce, which is a game-changing practice. As a highly respected lawyer, she is a tireless and practical advocate for women's rights in Israel and in the United States. I am a Jewish feminist! Please, stop clapping, recorded version of me. Stop. Because I think this should be normal. I think all Jewish men should be feminists. My opinion is, Judaism has focused on men for far too long. It is time for women and people of all gender identities to have their moment. I want to be part of the fight for equality in Judaism, and it starts with inviting you to learn with me about the 8 women in this series. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kobi Russell!